I often get asked if it's possible to pick up your knitting and off the machine and then pick it up onto regular knitting needles to finish your sock or otherwise knit on the project by hand. The answer is yes. So I'm going to show you how in this video. These are the needles that I use. This is a size US 0. It's a 2mm knitting needle. And these are short. They're 1.5 inches. The actual needle is 1.5 inches. And the whole thing is 12 inches. Although I admit longer would be better if you had that opportunity, because it would make it easier to do magic loop. So maybe even twice this long if you could find one. You'll start. So I've finished my project, switched over to waste yarn, and I did not hug the needle. Okay, so I just dropped both ends of the yarn, the project yarn and the waste yarn, down right over the main mark. So there's no overlapping stitches, which will make it easier to pick up later. Your first thing you want to do is find where the little jog is. So you can see on mine, it's right here. So right here is the split in the rows. So you can see this one from this perspective. This sock yarn, the yellow or project yarn, is one row lower. So as you're cranking, you would have gone this way around and it comes back from this side to end here. Okay. One important thing to understand is that if you've been knitting clockwise, cranking so that the cylinder's turning clockwise on your machine, it will be the opposite. It will be going the opposite direction as hand knitting. So here you can see that the second row kind of comes out this way. You've been knitting this direction. And on hand knitting, of course, it's the opposite. You've been knitting from this direction, right? So it takes stitches off of your left hand needle and it puts them onto your right hand needle. But essentially cranking is the opposite. So if you wanted to be perfectly set up for hand knitting, you actually would end, or you could even do your entire project knitting counterclockwise, cranking counterclockwise, and then it would be better positioned if you plan to do a significant amount of hand knitting at the end. For now though, the most important thing to save you time later is how you pick up the stitches. And actually, let me show you one here. You'll see that if I pull this apart, this is the stitch. Okay? This is the stitch. So to be ready for hand knitting, you would come up under this leg, and then you would ignore this side of that same stitch, right? So if this is the little loop that the stitch makes, can you see that? The little horseshoe that stitch makes? You would pick up this side and then skip over that one. So you'd pick up that leg of the next stitch and you'd continue all the way around like that every other stitch. So if we go back out, as you look that it makes a V the way we think of the letter V, not an upside down one, but the actual V shape, you're picking up the right leg onto your needle, and that would position you correctly for hand knitting. So again, if we did it here, it's exactly the same, it's just tiny. So you would pick up that right leg of every other stitch. Again, it's really helpful to have a very sharply contrasting yarn so you can pick those up. Try not to split the stitches. And you would just go all the way around, just like that. I hope that helps. Happy knitting! Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.